Welcome to episode 22 of the Creating Responsible Companies podcast. We are continuing our series on working from home responsibly, and today we are talking about work from home ergonomic hacks. My name is Janet Craig. I'm one of the founding partners of Destination Better, the company who brings you the Creating Responsible Companies podcast. And we are recording this today on April 9th, 2020, as we continue our Working from Home series. And we have a really cool thing in store for you today.
We are so excited as we are all adjusting, and it's such a challenging time for so many people with so much pain and suffering, and our hearts and prayers go out to those in that situation. And at the same time, a lot of people are adjusting to working from home who never have. And so with our home office ergonomic hacks, we're so excited to have Rebecca Greier-Horton with Herman Miller, and she is the workplace wellbeing knowledge lead for Central US and Eastern Canada. And a little bit about Rebecca is she is passionate about the physical, social, and cognitive human factors and how they play into our employees' abilities to perform at their highest level. She solves current and emerging workplace challenges to place any company in the best position to attract, retain, and engage employees. She believes that you need to drive your business forward to grow and be well. So we are so honored to have you today, Rebecca, and to hear what your home office ergonomic hacks are.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And it is so nice to see you, even if it's from literally we're 1,000 miles apart now, ladies. So nice to see you again. I've been really serving my clients and my coworkers through communicating the message that the human body matters at work. We're told, with the proper environment and the proper tools, that we have to take care of our bodies to mitigate pain. And we have the same body that we just took home along with our laptop when we went to home for this long stint of time, which initially it was a week, then it was 2 weeks. And it just keeps getting longer. Now we're starting to feel those aches and pains creep in. So my goal is to share what we've just opened our home as, there are 4 of us under one roof, 2 e-schooling, a junior and a senior in high school, e-schooling, my husband and I working diligently, separating out and trying to share Wi-Fi, share a task chair, and work in the best possible way to mitigate pain, keep a positive outlook, and really just take care of our bodies during this time. And you ladies have heard me talk before about, supporting the human body in motion in the workplace. We have tools for that. We have, the appropriate seating. We have, high decibel desks in some cases, these wonderful monitors that folks have. But with our migration to home, the laptop came home with us, and, we found ourselves maybe sitting on the sofa. That worked for a moment. And what I hear again and again each week is that people are having pain in the trapezius. They're having numbness in the toes. They're having numbness in the fingers. So just like to share with you, and for those of you who can see, it's great. But for those of you who are listening in, just imagine, the body seated in that perfect posture. When you stand, and I say Wonder Woman because I'm a Wonder Woman fan, and I that's how I envision the powerful stance. When you sit down, you should still maintain that very powerful body with that very upright posture. Your knees should be at right angles, so your feet are flat on the floor. For many of us, when we sit in a standard chair that we have available to us at home, our feet may dangle. So there's a nerve that runs down the back of your thigh. It's the popliteal nerve. You don't want to let that become impinged by being pinched on the back of the chair. So if you have, this is one of my hacks, if you have that happening, find something, get creative, look around your home. Maybe it's a cutting board. I have a tiny little Chinese stool that I use as a footrest to allow me to put my feet up on that to where I'm in this, this perfect alignment and I'm not pressing on the back of my thighs. The next stop, think about moving. It's just like building a building, going from the foundation and moving up the body is, at the hips. So you want to have your hips in that angle. It's ideal if you have a task chair, something where you're able to move and not be in a frozen position. But many of us are operating from less than optimal chairs right now. So just be mindful. You don't want to have you don't want to be too small of an angle and your hips really just crushed in. You want to have the back leaning to the back of that seat. If you're too reclined, you may need to, hack number 2, get some pillows and prop yourself to where you feel supported. You want to have your body nice and supported. So imagining that body in that perfect position, sitting in the chair and your head looking straight forward, everything is wonderful. And then we add the technology and really mess it all up.
One thing I'd love to hear a little bit about, Rebecca, is if you could tell people what Herman Miller is, what the company is, and a little bit about your role as well.
My pleasure. I usually just cut to the chase. It's my D personality.
And I didn't ask you earlier, but we're huge fans of Herman Miller sustainability and have connected with you on that on other occasions.
Well, we are a 100-year-old company. Everything that I share with regard to ergonomics is based on standards that have been around for a very long time, and that Herman Miller has had direct impact in influencing and writing many scientists who have been on boards and societies, long before I ever even heard of Herman Miller, have contributed to really building the foundations of human-centric, the human-centric workplace. We're not super proud of it, but we are the inventors of the first cubicle. We got away from that years later and went to more an open plan, but oddly enough, people are saying the higher walls are looking a little attractive right now. So I think we'll get past that. But that we are known for a human-centered work environment, also residential. If you've ever seen the Eames lounge chair, we have a huge residential line as well. But bottom line, everything is to support the human body and the human body in motion, and to really elevate the employee experience to where the employee is able to work at their very highest potential. And I always say this, especially for you women, what I'm talking about. It's like a really amazing pair of heels that you think those are not going to work. Those are heels. Those are horrible. And you slip them on and then you just forget about them. When design works, it's very similar to that. There's no pain, everything's effortless, and it just feels right. And it looks pretty nice. So that's a little bit about Herman Miller. We're known for the Aeron task chair. It's the most famous task chair in the world. And it is still the #1 selling task chair, but it's all built on just supporting the human spine as it sits. Now we're focused on getting you up and getting you moving around. So there's an entire suite of offerings to create that living office environment to where you have choice and move around your workplace during the day. Because even more than sitting properly and having that perfect posture, movement of the human body is critical to well-being. In this next slide, that I'm sharing, but for those of you not being able to see it, I want to share with you a really good way for you at home to get up and get moving. I mentioned the laptop, and the laptop, when it comes to ergonomics, that's just the devil. It's the worst thing in the world for you. So really, must do is find a way to separate your laptop from your keyboard. If you have a monitor and you key off of your laptop and you have a monitor at home, that's fantastic. But if you're like myself and the rest of my family right now, we just came home with our laptops and we didn't have big monitors. So the first thing for us to do was to find a way to elevate the laptop to use it as our screen, and then separate out the keyboard by using a wireless keyboard. Those are things that are readily available still on Amazon. I checked this morning. The very some of the very chic ergonomic tools are just not available because they're in such high demand. So this is one of the few things that you would have to purchase to really set yourself up ergonomically at home. Once you have those two things, you've got your laptop, you're using your screen as your monitor screen as your monitor, and your independent keyboard, get creative. We looked around the house and found areas where we could stand, and then elevating the laptop, we used a cupboard rack. It was for, I have no alliance with them, but it's one of my favorite stores, the Container Store. It's like the shelving that, you have in your kitchen. I took that out of several of and they're in different sizes, and they're still super available because no one cares about kitchen shelving right now. And we stacked those up to fit our heights. So we developed like standing desks where we would set our laptops on them. The slotted nature of the bottom of the little can stand allows for the cooling of the laptop, which is just a bonus, and we can get it to that exact eye height to where we can stand and work as part of our day. The University of Waterloo has a recent study that recommends that it's a 1-to-1 ratio now. For every hour that you work, half of that hour should be spent in a standing position. So I urge you to try to look around and be creative in locating that spot where you have natural light, but no glare, views to the outside, and just that environment to where you can set up a standing workstation for yourself.
That is a nice idea, especially now as people are challenged, as you said, with other family members home, trying to find a quiet spot. So you could set it up somewhere that would be quiet, and maybe, like you said, the natural light. So these are great hacks. And you had mentioned that office supplies are sometimes challenging to get right now. So I love this notion of the hacks using other things in your house, which we've been known to do, haven't we, Janet? Like even Kleenex boxes come in handy now.
We have actually set up all kinds of different things that are kind of funny when you look at it behind the scenes. But Rebecca, I thought about you this week because when we finally settled in, because we had to move our podcast studio out of our office and into our respective homes. So that was one thing, but finding a way to work. And one of the first things I did was I stood up, because I've been a stand-up worker since 2012. And I stand up most of the day. I know, you're so proud of me.
I'm so impressed.
Thank you. I went to a blank wall and I got a measuring tape, and I measured how far, what my height was, where I wanted to be. And then I went around and I ended up finding the perfect size Amazon box, but I had to cut holes in it to cool off my computer, but it worked really well. So how far, and on the screen right now, you've got an image, but how far away should we be from the screen after we figure it should be eye level and we find some cool hacks around our house to figure out how far away should we be?
Great, that's a great point. And the answer is, it varies from person to person. It's based on our focal length. But if you look at the tried and true ergonomic references, it says about arm's length away. When they show that, it's usually a very young person or a 20-year-old guy. I am not a 20-year-old guy. I'm not a young person. So my focal length is very different. That's a starting point. So when you're sitting in a nice proper posture, and this is in your sitting posture or your standing posture, hold your arms, just one arm directly out in front of you, just like you're a half zombie. Just put your arm straight out in front of you, and that fingertip should be able to almost touch your monitor. That's the starting point. Then, based on your focal length, and the last thing you want to do is to lean your head in or to have to rear your neck back. move that, your setup, whether it be books, a cabinet, a kitchen cabinet shelf, move that with your laptop screen so you hit that perfect focal length for your eyes, and only you see through your eyes, to where you are in that alignment. Because when you stand, again, that Wonder Woman pose, you want to stand in that very strong neck upright, because that's where your neck is going to feel the most comfortable. So only you'll know when you hit that sweet spot. And when you're sitting, and it seems like I'm obsessed with the kitchen, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm not obsessed with the kitchen, but I think that's why we use baking racks as ergonomic tools. But there's we used a hack of using like a cookie cooling sheet, not an actual oven rack, because that would be too heavy, but a little rack that you cool cookies on, and placed it on our laps, put our wireless keyboard, our mouse pad, and our wireless mouse, and actually just keyed and moused off our laps. And that little baking rack was the perfect size, and ergonomically, you're in a good range, because you're about 132 degrees, 90s, whenever you have your forearm sticking straight out of your waist, straight forward, and then dropping the forearm down to where you're just resting your hands in your lap. It's about 132 degrees, and that's perfectly acceptable by ergonomic standards. The last thing you want to do is reach up to work, because that's when you'll have pain in the shoulders, in the neck. But having that in your lap reach is perfect. I saw a hack that a guy used his dog as this laptop pillow. That is, I don't think that would work for either party, but people are getting, kind of creative and crazy. It's just really entirely up to you. But be creative. Look around for things that you can do to connect. And speaking of connect, many people are opting to, if they have compatibility, to connect with their laptop. Whether it be a PC or a Mac, connect it to their actual television. And again, that's based on, your proximity to that, if you're able to get that connected, is based on your preferences and also your focal length. But it's another way to keep your posture up. So, the goal is, not to really turn into the, I call it a cashew body, where you just turn into this tiny little crunched over thing. Your neck's tilted forward, your pelvis is tilted forward, and you look like the letter C, but to keep the torso very straight. And that, that's the end game. That's the goal for this. And then, of course, movement.
So Rebecca, for our listeners who may not know, you are a well AP, and I know on the previous slide that you were just looking at, and on this one too, we can see that you have lots of outdoor light, and maybe you can see outside. So what does it have to do with being a well AP, and why is that important for us in our new home offices?
That is one of the fundamentals of the well building standard is comfort, is mind. So ergonomics falls into comfort, and mind is having that we're meant to be outside. We spend about 90% of our time indoors, which is terribly unnatural. So when we have to, bringing the outdoors in. So biophilia is an element. It's one of the requisites. And having natural views to the outdoors, your circadian rhythms will thank you. If you have natural light, your body you will rest better at night. It will establish, a better rhythm in your hormones, your better balance rather in your hormones. Your circadian rhythms will establish your hormones. And if you're prone to fatigue, it will help you break that cycle of fatigue. Having the natural light, and it's also just peaceful to see, the trees. And I am in front of my front window, and seeing the trees and the greenery and the birds. It's a beautiful time of year to have those views, and it also keeps you from developing computer vision syndrome. And again, I talked about 20/20/20. When you stare at a screen all day long, you will lose your distance at far away. So for every 20 every 20 minutes that you work on your computer, look out your window for 20 feet, maybe even 20 meters to see a distance, and do that for about 20 seconds. Let your eyes, recalibrate, and then go back to work. It's there's so many things that tie into just that simplicity of having a window seat.
And I think that would be, you have a reference there to tech neck, which is, I'd love to have you explain. And I think the 2020 would also be an opportunity as you're doing that to kind of stretch your neck and maybe roll your head right a little bit and maximize that 20.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Movement, movement, movement. We've got all these joints in our bodies for a reason, and you either move them or you lose them. You've got to keep that mobility. That's why the standing is so important. And, the American Academy of Ophthalmology, that the 20-20-20 rule is ancient, but it still holds true. And yes, your body will talk to you and tell you exactly when you're doing something wrong. You'll have a pain point, tech neck. Case in point, we've got 20-something year olds with incredibly bad cervical spine pain because they go from working in their workplace looking down because they go, oh no, my laptop's just easier. Then they take a short commute. They have their technology in their hands the entire time. Then they come home and sit in a cashew position, and they never fully stand with their spine erect. So over time, and it's very simple, just very simple physics. Your head weighs about 8 to 9 pounds, and if it's just balanced right on top of your spine as it's supposed to be, it's very neutral. As soon as you start leaning it forward, and there was a great, I think everyone ran this, Time magazine ran it, Forbes ran it, and it showed the increase of the weight and the torque on the muscles in the neck. As you lean your neck forward, that head becomes heavier and heavier. So I say, think of holding a bowling ball with a straight arm out in front of you and how heavy that is. And then now bring that bowling ball in closer to your body. And now just kind of bring the hand up and rest the bowling ball up where your shoulder is. And it's really not that heavy anymore. The same holds true with your neck and your head and the weight of your head. So, envision that, because if you can keep your head perched above your spine the way it's supposed to be in that nice position, in an upright position, it is definitely a way to mitigate tech neck.
Or, a lot of times people, when you're in a meeting or in a conference room or something, and people are looking down at their phone, they call it the prayer position. That is so far down, but it especially is concerning for little ones, I think, who are probably home doing schoolwork as well.
And it's the best time to have those ergonomic interventions for your teenagers. They have that teenage slouch anyway, or at least mine do. And the younger kids, just teaching them from the beginning, because it will shape their bodies for the rest of their lives and their habits.
I love that, ergonomic interventions. Expression. Well, so to round us out, you've got some great, do you want to go through these great tips that you've got on your faves, Rebecca's faves?
Yes. Again, just as a recap, just mind your spine. Remember to sit to stand. You only have one spine, take care of it. Sit to stand, throughout the day. Use that 1-to-1 ratio as cited most recently by the University of Waterloo. Be kind to your eyes. I joke around and go, they're pretty helpful. You want to take care of them. Use the 20-20-20 rule. And headphones in this little family of 4, I say headphones are helpful, and frankly, it can save a family. It can save a relationship. They could save a marriage. When you're all under one roof working together, it is a real, it's a real must have. You can get by without them, but they sure are helpful. Video chat when you can. I got to see Janet and Barbara this morning, and I was just smiling ear to ear. I love hearing their voices, but it's awesome to get to see your friends and colleagues face to face, and your expressions can communicate thousands more ideas than just video chatting in the little chat box on the side. So, reach out and actually see your colleagues and your friends. Go for quiet, but don't go punish yourself trying to do it. Try to find a focused area within your home to set up your home office, but don't go to a closet. That's just, it's like a prison. You don't want to do that. It's just going to really bring you down. Keep in mind those natural views to the outside and the natural light are going to make you feel better. Another thing is just, keeping your work tools and storage handy in your own space and in your own individual space, whether it be a little basket or what have you, so that you just have that sense of organization and you don't have to have that cognitive distraction and disorganization. And be creative and experiment with the things that the hacks that you're going to come up with, because oh my gosh, I've heard so many interesting ones over this past week from just ironing boards as a sit to stand. I mean, crazy things that have been shared with me. One gentleman's working in his wife's very fancy bathroom. Her water closet is shut off in a separate room, but he said, her bathroom is so fancy. It's got all these different levels. So he's adopted that as his office. And he said, yes, it has a window over the tub. So that's a vision in and of itself. So, be creative during this time. Connect and share the space that you have with the people in your lives. We're all working very hard, but take that moment, just, reach out and the ones that you're quarantined with right now, give them a big hug and just, reassure them that we're going to get through this. And this is, this is kind of different, but it's going to be okay. My big one, because I initially started doing this, I've taught Pilates for decades and I think, oh man, I can't go back into the studio looking like this. Snack when hungry, not from boredom. So don't get crazy and eat all your quarantine food in a couple of weeks. It's going to last us a little bit. Stay hydrated because it's just good for your body. And it also reminds you to get up, because if you really stay hydrated, you can't sit and you got to go someplace. So that is a really good tip to get you going and moving. And then finally, most importantly is, stay distanced at this time, not under your own roof, but, stay distanced in the community, but stay connected. That is my biggest tip and takeaway for today.
Boy, these are all so helpful and so practical, and things that people can use these hacks to become more ergonomically friendly, so you don't need that intervention. And you've certainly taught me some things as I'm sitting here thinking, oh, my table is just a few inches higher than my chair, so I'm going to have to go get some cushions from the family room. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so helpful, and so many people are reaching out wondering, how can I do this work from home thing? So that's why Jen and I created this Work From Home Responsibly series. And as we transition from here and hopefully eventually back into the office, and with Herman Miller being such an excellent resource for all kinds of solutions for the office and at home, how can people find you? Would it be on LinkedIn, Rebecca?
I am a big fan of LinkedIn, and I really share colleagues' content and some of my own original content. That is a great place to connect with me through messaging, and then I'm very open. Everything is on LinkedIn. So my email address is Rebecca_Horton@hermanmiller.com. If you have something specific that you'd like to ask me, I'm not a doctor, but I certainly can assist with ergonomic interventions. And if you have a really cool hack, like working in your wife's bathroom or something, please, drop me a line, because I just love to share stories that other people are coming up with to really just make the best of things during this time.
Well, and I would agree that on LinkedIn, you always have creative content and are a positive spirit, and it's always great to see you pop up. Anything else, Janet, on this before we close it out?
That's it. I can't wait to see all the interesting hacks that we hear about from different people as we transition to working from home. And we hope that everyone stays healthy and well and connected and during this time. And Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure. And it was wonderful getting to see you.
You as well, Rebecca. And we'll have your PowerPoint as a download, if that's okay, on our website at destinationbetter.com/22, where Rebecca will share these tips. So we thank you for joining us today, and until next time.